What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Good morning and welcome to the Shred Show Live. You see his smiling face. When I get hanging out with Joe, I just know it's going to be a good time. And you know we're going to be bringing you value. We're going to be having conversations. We're going to be including you on things that absolutely are going to change your mindset. They're going to change your business because that's what Joe and the entire Total Expert team are all about. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the Customer for Life Guarantee. You are not going to want to miss this. Our industry is evolving. Our industry is changing. You need to have partners. You need to have people surrounding you that are helping you with the future of this industry. And that's exactly what Joe and I are going to be talking about this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Are you ready? It is time to shred. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the Shred Show Live. If you don't know my guest this morning, you've seen him on the show before. You see him all around the industry because he's a leader. He's a visionary. He is truly inspiring the next generation of this mortgage industry. Mr. Joe Welu is joining me this morning. What's up, Joe?
Hey, buddy. Thanks for the kind words, man. Good to be with you, Josh. Always fun.
It's always fun hanging out with you. And you know what? You and I were talking about this before. You got to enjoy what you do. You got to love what you do. And every time I talk to you, Joe, you can just see the passion, the enthusiasm, the excitement that you have for this industry because you've been doing this a long time. Before we get into our conversation, there's so much we can get into, but you have been doing this a long time. For anybody who doesn't know your background, you've been in the industry a while.
Yeah. I mean, I started in the residential real estate industry in 2001 and did that for about 13, 14 years prior to starting Total Expert. And then the rest of that time has been spent building and iterating and evolving and Total Expert into the company we are today. So it's been my life's work for sure.
I've got to ask, because this is one of those cliche questions, but did you ever imagine, as Total Expert, when you started it, kind of boots on the ground, you understand the industry. Did you ever imagine it was going to be what it is today? Because you guys, you've built it into this absolute juggernaut of the industry. And it's such an incredible tool, such a useful resource. Did you ever imagine where it is where it is now?
We just thought about it. I don't think I ever thought about it in terms of we need to be at a certain size. It was always about how can we add and be how do we add value for our customers and be an incredible technology partner? And just became obsessed with that and obsessed with helping them win in their markets. And as you do that, as you realize and you learn, as you add more value to your customers and find ways to continue to add value, things grow. And it's just been an incredible, I'm extremely privileged to have had the opportunities we've had and wake up every day super hungry to get to the office and dive in and help our customers continue to grow and evolve in this ever-changing world. So.
Oh, dude. And that's exactly what you and I are going to be talking about. It's adding value. It's talking about this evolving world that we're in because the wholesale lending world of itself is evolving. It's changing. Market competition is stronger than ever. The rate conversation it's of course, rate is important, but we talk about that so frequently, like rate isn't everything. You got to have a competitive advantage. And how do you gain that advantage? How are you creating customers for life? How are you creating that experience? How are you creating that guarantee? And that really is our conversation for today. Brokers face this financial pressure, just as, retail, everybody in our industry is facing margin compression. They're facing obstacles of these big box companies, the Quickens of the world, the Zillows of the world. How do you compete with that? So we need to find every possible opportunity to separate ourselves, to create that customer for life base. So how do we do that? How do we really start creating that shift? How does this become a priority for us?
Well, so first of all, I think it's really critical as leadership and as the organization that you're a part of understands that lifetime value of the customer is such a massively important thing to long-term success in the business that you're in. So if I'm a lender, regardless of the channel that I'm looking at, I need to be obsessively focused on creating lifelong relationships with those customers so that I can have truly maximum value out of that relationship, right? I mean, historical 1 in 4, 1 in 5, 20% of people, 20% maybe is a good retention rate or kind of middle of the road retention rate. 18 to 20% of lenders retain the borrower, right? That's a huge number of people that are not loyal that go on to the next, to the next, to the next. And so you end up having just this massive amount of resources, capital, and focus on acquiring net new customers all the time, when had you really been masterful at creating those customers for life, you would be growing exponentially, and certainly your profit will be growing exponentially. So we believe in our methodology is always start and look at it from the customer perspective first, right? So if I'm a lender, I'm in the wholesale game, I have really two constituents in this scenario. I have my broker constituents and of course the borrower. And first of all, I'm looking to my broker and I'm saying, what do they care more than anything else about? What is the number one thing they care about? And the conversations and the research, I've been really had the opportunity to talk to a lot of the industry leaders of some of the greatest companies, and they do this and they think about it and they know that the broker cares, number one, first and foremost, about am I going to get my borrower back?
Sure.
Are you going to bring my customer back to me? Right. And I think that's the number one thing that we see as a pain point. So if I'm a lender and I know the number one concern that broker has about doing business or bringing their business to me, how am I going to deal with that? And so our approach, and we work with a select few lenders on this strategy, is offer a customer for life guarantee to your broker constituents, okay, to your broker partners. And in doing that, it's not complicated, but it has some complexity to it, right? So I need to be able to go to the broker and say, listen, as an organization, we are absolutely passionate about making sure you get your customer back. In fact, here's the things that we're going to do to bring your customer back to you, right? And those are, we're going to automate what's going on when your customer shows intent to do that next transaction. And then we're going to automate customer journey, workflow, communication on your behalf to the customer. And we're going to keep you in the loop every single time there's an insight that shows up that maybe your customer is going to be looking for the opportunity to do another transaction. And we're going to set it all up for you, and it's going to be automated. And here's what it looks like, all in black and white on paper. So that's what we call a customer for life guarantee. And we work with lenders to help kind of format their own version of that. But ultimately, that's sort of step one, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then step two is ultimately the other part of maximizing a lifetime relationship, long-term relationship with a customer, is really around, how do I provide a first-class, world-class transaction experience? Meaning, are you communicating frequently and often? Are you keeping them informed via text on what's happening in the transaction? Are you touching base with them in the loan milestones post-close? Are you sending them out communication about what's going to happen with their payment, right? A lot of lenders, they complete the deal, it ships over, maybe they service it, maybe they send it to a sub-service or whatever it is, but then it's like out of sight, out of mind. So you got to have that continuity to really maximize that customer for life sort of approach. And then if you really want to be serious about offering customer for life guarantee, you got to put your money where your mouth is and actually put the system in place.
Well, see, what you're talking about here is so brilliant. And this is why I think Total Expert will continue to dominate and win in these ways, because I was literally having this conversation on another podcast yesterday. I was a guest on this podcast, and he brought up the point of like, hey, mortgage companies, lenders are always trying to find out, because their customer is the originator. Originators are for most consumers. That's their consumer. That's who they're trying to get the attention. Total Expert, though, you see that, you guys understand that. Of course, the originator, the loan officer, is your consumer, but ultimately it's the person buying the home. It's the person refinancing. Understanding their needs, their wants, their desires is the peak of all this. That's what's critically important. And you guys are actually 100%. Doing that. That's exactly what you guys are understanding as well. So many tech companies in our industry, they're missing the ball because they're not really figuring out. They're not really asking the ultimate client, the consumer, the home buyer, what they're just telling them what they want. No, you need this, this is what it is. And it's like, whoa. And that's why I told
they're talking at them. Right?
Bingo. And that's why you guys this is so game changing. This is why it's so, and that's why it's so critically important for our industry to understand there's a difference between, just new tech coming in. And again, is it really best for the consumer? No, you really have to understand your tech, who you're working with, and make sure the company that you're partnering with really understands that end consumer.
Well, so much technology, particularly in mortgage, and if you look at it, it's about some of it, and this maybe comes off the wrong way, and I don't mean it to be this way, but a lot of it is like, how do we set a better mousetrap and sort of kind of trick the customer into filling out a lead form and then incubating them and then getting them ready to transact versus what's extremely important to the customer. How can we deliver value to that customer at all stages of the life cycle? How can we use the data and the intelligence that we have to communicate with them in a better, more meaningful, more authentic way, and actually prove that we're listening to probably what's important to
Yes.
them in life, right? So,
Yes.
it's easy to talk about. It's much harder to do, but what's super exciting, and you and I've talked about this before, is the technology has evolved to where amazing things are possible now
Mhm.
because of technology. You can use data and customer intelligence to change the way you communicate, to deliver a truly humanized experience at scale. You can use technology, data, insights, action to be able to set up a customer for life guarantee so that your broker partners know. One of the topics for today was
Yeah.
certainly wholesale lending, but it transcends through all the channels, really, right? Because customer lifetime value, in my opinion, is the most important thing.
Well, so let's kind of build on that because what you talk about there,
Yeah.
we have been talking about wholesale lending in particular in the broker channel. What some of these challenges we've mentioned, but what are some of those areas of challenge for wholesale lenders? Is it that,
Yeah.
is it because they have so many irons in the fire, they have so many
Yeah.
pieces going on that it's hard for them to
Yeah.
listen? What are some of those challenges?
I think, well, I think everybody has. I always like to think, most organizations have good intentions, but they suffer from maybe a lack of focus and then a lack of
Hmm.
execution sometimes, right? So
Yeah.
I think they do have a lot of irons in the fire. And I think the industry has evolved and changed, right? And so I think there's a lot of organizations that have woken up over this last year and said, yes, we want to continue to dominate in retail. And by the way, we need to further invest in consumer direct and sort of what maybe a blended model looks like. And by the way, we also want to have a wholesale channel to where we can, offer our great platform to the brokers in the broker ecosystem, right?
Sure.
And so I'm operating in that environment, and then a lot of times I've got servicing over here as well, and some of them are playing in that game. And so, how do I connect all of those things? And how do I always think about what does my quote unquote customer, whether it's the consumer, whether it's my loan officer, whether it's my broker partner, what do they care about the most at this moment, and how am I addressing that?
Oh,
And so, yeah, it's but that you have to ask these questions relentlessly because it moves on you, right? It changes a little bit.
see, but you mentioned something that's so critical to this, Joe. Is like you ask the questions, but then you actually have to execute on like when you're
You have to
getting the
execute.
feed. Yeah, exactly. Like I think that's where some of
Yeah.
the big challenges that we see today. And again, to everybody, we don't want to make sure we're not saying anything negative about wholesale lenders. Wholesale lenders are doing a great job, but we're talking about how to improve this, and that's exactly where I want to stay next. How do
Yeah.
wholesale lenders stay competitive?
How do you
Like,
get better?
yeah,
How do you get
exactly. How
better?
do we get better? How do we get better?
Yeah, so I think number one, you have to understand. Number one, you have to have clarity, and there are some lenders that say we want to originate through a wholesale channel, acquire loans through brokers, and then we want to retain that customer. We don't really care about whether the broker gets the customer back or not. That's a business
Sure.
decision, and I think it's just important that and have clarity around what the business model is that you're going to have and why, because our experience is as the brokers, it's a very volatile scenario. If you're going out with one message saying, hey, we care about you, but you're not actually supporting that with your actions, right? Meaning you're sending those deals back through somebody else and you're not delivering that customer back. Like it's best to be transparent and have clarity about what the model is that you want to have. And if your model truly is you're going to build on that broker channel and you're going to add value to those brokers, you have to care about bringing their customer back to them. And you have to put systems and things in place to be able to prove that to them and do it at scale, right? Because it breaks down very quickly. If you look at the fastest growing wholesale lenders and you look at the ones, I won't mention names, I try not to do that, but if you look at the people that have crushed the market in wholesale lending, obsessive about focusing on what does the broker care about? And then how can I deliver what they care about most back to them? and it started with a very simple concept. Let's make it frictionless for them to get their customer back. Let's make it frictionless for them to stay in front of their customer
Yep.
and make sure they know they're important to us, right? Like it was
Well,
that simple. And so that's, yeah.
you would think it, and you would think it's that simple, but that's just it. Is to some it's not. You and I have
Yeah.
heard the discussion, the wholesale lending that it was happening. Some of
Yeah.
that. We won't get deep into that, but that's just
Yeah.
it. The broker channel. You need to understand what's important to the originator, to the consumer, and
Yeah.
you need to make sure you're executing properly on those things. And this conversation is just that. That's what we're trying. All you
Yeah.
wholesale lenders out there who are looking to stay competitive, are looking to grow, to evolve as the
Yeah.
market does. You need to be aware of these things. You need to be mindful of them.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of transition into this is, Total Expert, like I mentioned, it does have that solution. It has so much available for these lenders, these wholesale lenders. How are you guys really helping with these challenges that we're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. So, first of all, our philosophy has always been as we've evolved into a platform and we have lots of technology capabilities, is to really give a suite of tools, a platform of tools that allow, we focus on enterprise customers, obviously, but allow them
Sure.
to tap into our technology resources and our best practices, and then be able to kind of take what makes sense for them in their business model and then put those things into place fairly quickly, right? So, for example, we're partnering with lenders on their own version of a customer for life guarantee,
Mm.
operationalizing it, setting up the workflow, setting up the data feeds, setting up the messaging cadence, all of the best practices. We're helping work towards that. And, there's by the way, a huge appetite for people wanting to adopt this in both wholesale and retail over this last 6 months. It's like, we were kind of surprised. Like, we were always offering certain amounts of these capabilities, but some of the bigger organizations that we partner with and really forward thinking organizations started coming at us really aggressively saying, hey, how can you help us solve these problems? How can you help us put a customer for life guarantee in place in all of our lines of business? And if we're talking about, the broker channel for the moment, right? In that scenario, most of the people we're working with they're crystal clear that it's important for us to continue to build and evolve this part of our business. And we know that we're going to be authentic about our approach to it. And so we're going to go to market. We're going to have a suite of tools and services that keep the broker in focus and in the mix with their customer. And then we're going to use, this is our words, of course. We think of everything from a framework of data, insights, and action, right?
Mm.
And we're going to use data, customer intelligence, insights, and then workflow, whether it's emails, communication, to kind of make everything work at scale. And then we're going to listen to what the numbers are telling us, what the data is telling us, right? And so how we're helping is enabling all of those things to kind of come together. And we're doing a lot of partnering and advising and strategizing with our customers. And it's sort of our philosophy on buying technology is it's about the partnership, right? Like, there's so much tech, I think, still today that's bought, and so many technology companies sell their technology and they say, here's a 3-year deal. Here's a kind of an implementation schedule. And then, we'll see in 3 years when it's time for renewal.
Sure.
And, our approach is that, hey, we need to focus on how do we drive value? How are we going to measure that value? And then let's make sure we're iterating on that over the next 3, 6, 9 months to make incremental progress. And so if the organizations that were, for purposes of your question, organizations that come to us with priorities saying, we want to grow our broker channel, we want to offer best in class offering as far as technology, tools, and services to the broker, how do we enable that? Right. So we're partnering with them to do those things.
Well, and that's just it. This broker experience that you're talking about, and you kind of hinted at, it begins to evolve. It's not just, and here's the thing too, is so many companies, and I love to clarify this, so many companies just, especially as I'm part of these groups or part of these discussions, which we're in a lot of them, is it's so much more than a CRM these days, Joe. So many people think of Total, and it's like, oh, I need a CRM. It's like, guys, again, CRM was one of those things that back when you and I started, everybody was like, well, what's the best CRM? We need a CRM. And it just became almost this fad tool. And but people don't even understand what it is anymore. It's like,
no, they don't, Josh. So first of all, the first question, and it's always funny because people start with, well, I need a CRM. Okay. And it's like, well, before you decide what you need, what are you trying to accomplish? Right. What do you want to drive in the business?
Yep.
Do you want, is it important for you to have a tool that loan officers or whoever log into and use, and they like to use every day? That's maybe one criteria of success. But oftentimes what we found is when we really drill down with leadership teams, really the most important criteria of success is, I want to grow the business and I want to increase customer loyalty and retention as a key lever to growing my business. I also want to improve how we're engaging with customers in the front of the journey, so that we can grow the business, right? And so a lot of the things they want to accomplish tie into growing the business. And what the problem with traditional CRMs and sort of horizontal solutions is, they were invented to track activity and maybe do some mild workflow.
Sure.
What they weren't designed for is to take complex data sets around, for example, home lending, what interest rates are, what kind of LTV is in place, being able to understand when a property goes on the market. They weren't designed to do those things. And then even if you've done an integration, you can get the data and the insights, but if you're not driving action at an enterprise level, meaning I've got workflows and call scripts and next best actions being surfaced to my people that are taking care of the customer, you're not getting value, right? So the CRM is really evolved into, what we believe. We were looking at the ecosystem as an experience platform.
Yep.
In every touch point in the entire customer journey, using data, insights, and then action to be able to, address every potential gap in the customer journey and deliver the optimum scenario, the optimum quote unquote experience, which gets overused so much, but
Yep.
That's really what it is, right? The ultimate type of engagement at each moment in time at every stage. And if you don't bring those things together, data, insights, and the workflow, right? You're not going to be delivering value to the business and the growth to the business, which is what you care about, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. So how many lenders do you talk with that have bought lots of technology? It doesn't matter if it's CRM or POS or anything else, and they're not sure what the value delivered was, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And and I think that's
we
one
do
of
the same thing, by the way.
Of course,
we bought technology. Yeah.
But that's why it's so different hearing that. And the customer experience is one of those things that's tossed around. I love hearing it, the customer journey, but that's what it is. It's understanding it. It's so much of a more a higher level, if you will, than just like having a CRM that, sends out the little emails and this. It's data. There's so many other key factors that play into the game, and partnering with a company who understands that and is looking forward to that in the future, understanding the technology, the data, everything that goes into that. That's how you become a successful organization. That's where the future of this is going. So that having that mindset, and again, having a team like Total Expert, being part of those conversations and understanding they are your partner. They're there to help you. They're there to help you achieve these results, these milestones. It's just critical thinking, Joe. And that's why I love these conversations, because you bring it to such a higher level for us. It's so great.
Yeah, well, it's we're extremely passionate about it. And I think the most fun for us is when we sit down with one of our customers and we look at customer retention rates that have doubled or are 2x or even 2.5 to 3x industry averages, right? Dang. That's the thing that fires us up every day and says it's well beyond just building features and functions and, sort of the things that technology companies fall in love with is we need to build more widgets and features and functions. And, my personal philosophy is always don't fall in love with the product you're building and the quote unquote tech, fall in love with the problems your customer has and helping them solve them.
That's it. We're going to end on that note. What a way to end, because that was absolutely brilliant. There's so much we've touched on, but I really want to, what problems are you solving, ladies and gentlemen? And you have to have the right tools, the right systems, the right processes in place to make sure that's happening. And that's what Total Expert allows you as a wholesale lender, as a broker. That's what they give you. I'm going to end on that note. Joe, you are absolutely brilliant. I love having you on because it's little snippets just like that.
That's way overstated, brother. But I always appreciate the opportunity to jam with you and love the energy and the passion you guys bring to the industry. And we're all fortunate to be a part of a great industry.
We are. You know what? That is such a good point. We are all very fortunate. This is our passion. This is our careers. This is what we've chosen to do. And at the end of the day, we get to help the consumer. We get to help people achieve the dream of home ownership. That's what we're all in it for. Yeah. So guys, with that, huge shout out to Joe, the Total Expert team, for joining us, for sharing so many great insights, so many great things that, again, that's what this show is designed for. We're here to create value. Like Joe said, we want to see you succeed. We want to see you absolutely achieve the success that you want, but you have to have the right partners. You have to have the team surrounding you to make that happen. With that, huge shout out to Joe. Thanks, Joe, for being here. Much more to come. You guys got to stay tuned. And travel season just around the corner. We're going to be seeing you guys live in so many places. So with that, as always, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you. We love you. Now it's time for all of you to go shred, go show up, hustle, repeat every day. See ya.